I wanted my book to be I wanted A Million Little Pieces to be a gob of spit in the face of the American literary community and the American sort of culture of victimization. It was designed to be an offensive, defiant work of art that was not categorizable. And when it started to be as successful as it became, it was sort of co-opted by both the American literary community and the American culture of victimization. You know, people, and instead of being a gob of spit in the face of the rehab industry, it became part of it. And instead of being something offensive, or me being an offensive person to the American literary community, I started to be invited into it. And I had a lot of trouble with it. Like, I started seeing a shrink. And I would go to the shrink and I'd be like, dude, this is fucked up. Like, people come up and give me hugs on the street and ask if I can touch them, or if they can touch me, and ask if I can, you know, get their sons and daughters off drugs, and like getting invited to award shows, and it was there's nothing wrong with that, but it's certainly not what I wanted, you know? When I think about the writer, I want to be Rimbaud, Baudelaire, Celine, Henry Miller. And I had a lot of trouble with it, and I was uncomfortable with it. And so then when it all blew up, there was this sort of funny afternoon where I went to see the shrink. And I walked in, he was like, rough week, huh? And I was like, yeah, man, it's been a rough fucking week. And he was like, well, you got what you wanted, how does it feel? And I was like, I don't know yet. And it was a hard time. I mean, I got written about a lot, in a lot of bad ways. It got to the point where I literally could not leave my apartment in New York without being followed by reporters and photographers and television crews or process servers handing me lawsuits. And so my wife and my daughter and I left. You know, we left New York and we came to France. We lived in the south of France in a little town called Beaulieu-sur-Mer, which is in between Nice and Monaco, to just have peace, you know, to get away from it. And I'd be lying if I said it was like, you know, all sort of bunny rabbits and rainbows. It was hard and weird and shitty, but that's what it is, you know. And I came back to the States, and I was lucky enough. I met Norman Mailer, and I ended up becoming friends with Norman, and I had a lot of conversations with him about this, about controversy, and how do you deal with it as a writer, how do you withstand it? And if I look back across the course of all these writers that I love, they all had to deal with this kind of shit in some way. And if you want to play, like I say, if you want to play a big boy's game, you better be ready to be a big boy about it. And I got through it. And ultimately what matters to me, and I think what will matter for history, is not whether some guy wrote some bad thing about me, or whether I got sued, or whether a TV talk show host didn't like me anymore. It's going to be about what I wrote. And if in 50 years somebody still picks up one of my books and opens it and reads it and it fucks them up, it moves them, it makes them cry, it makes them feel great, it does to some person 50 years from now what Tropic of Cancer did to me. Just light them the fuck up. Then that book's a success. And it won't matter what anybody has ever had to say about it. And that's going to be ultimately the decision between, or the deciding factor between whether my work lasts or not. I worry about the books I write. You know, I don't worry about the media. I don't worry about sales. I don't worry about any of that. I trust the books are going to sell. I trust that the media is going to do what I want them to do, which is either write reviews that say I write the best books in the world, or I write the worst books in the world. And if I just focus on the books, if I just focus on one word after another, and using those words in a way that will move a reader, I'll just be fine. But it's definitely been odd and weird and cool and fun and everything I hoped and dreamed it would be, and not what I hoped and dreamed it would be. Which is sort of, I think, what all our lives are in some way or another.